Now, enabling the hardware stats, again, requires a little bit of tinkering. So let's go back to our host. Getting the hardware stats to work on this particular host is the next thing that we're going to do here. Let's go in here, we'll just double check the hardware tab. As you can see, no data available. So there's nothing in there at the moment, nothing is being collected. We don't have Munin node installed, running, and having data collected. So how do we go about doing that? Well, it's not terribly hard. We have some Munin node configuration examples. The MMS documentation will also have directions on how to install a Munin node. Here is the MMS documentation about how to actually go about installing Munin node, and we're on one of the Red Hat CentOS derivatives on Amazon Linux, so we'll be following these instructions. Yum install Munin node. I've actually already run that on this host, but you can see nothing to do because Munin node is actually already installed. It's not currently running though, so what we do is start the service. There we go. Munin node is now started. We can do a quick check. Munin node runs on port 4949, so very quick check. Let's telnet to the local host on that port and make sure that it is actually running. So we telnet in on localhost 4949. We can do a quick list of all the available statistics. The ones that the MMS agent are actually going to pull off of here and track are going to be CPU and IOStat iOS and IOStat, and it's going to graph the various different pieces for that particular host, IO over time, CPU over time, and the various different pieces of that. We can see what a raw version of CPU looks like. Go, and we can do the same thing for IOStat. And there's two sample values. So that's what the agent is pulling off. Again, as you can see, as usual, it's just some generic statistics. It's not gathering anything terribly confidential. And so now, when we have Munin node running, we're gathering those stats. We can see that we're now tracking CPU time and the various different stats within that, whether it's user CPU, which would be what the MongoD process itself would usually be using, system CPU, which is something else out there in maybe the kernel, using a lot of CPU to clean up some memory, various other reasons that could spike, and a couple other pieces of information there. And then you can see the IO stat and IO time, what it was actually spending its time doing. In this case, it's all W time, which is write time. And over here for the IO stat, you can see that there were quite a few spikes in IO stat operations when we were doing some writes earlier on that have since tapered off. And again, just like in the previous demo that Dwight showed, you can get your standard help in terms of what the particular lines mean. User, nice, system, IO8, IRQ. So if you really were pounding this host in terms of the IO, what you'd expect to see is an increase in IO8. This is where the CPU is actually waiting for operations to complete on the IO side. And then correlated to that, you would see an increase on one of your disks over here. Probably write related if you're hammering with writes, and you'd start to see the writes spike here, you'd see write spike here, and you'd see IO8 spike over here.